Maybe.
There it is.
Welcome, everyone, to Helping the Brave. My name is Amy Tiemeyer. I'm one of the hosts. I have Nate and Ed here, and then I have a guest today who is Melissa. And sorry for the delay in coming at you, but actually it was technical difficulties with StreamYard. So yay, not our fault.
Not today, anyway.
Not today. So, Melissa, usually when we have people on, we have very few non-veterans, so you're part of a little group. But we always want to share things that help our veteran community. So, Melissa, tell us about you.
Hi, well, thank you for having me. And I come from a family of military. I was born and raised in San Diego. I own a business called Brain Training Centers, which I actually live in Atlanta now. And I brought my business partner, who is in San Diego still, on with me. And so we do brain therapy, but 5 years ago, we decided to add a nonprofit side called Healing Our Heroes. So we provide cost-free care for our veterans. We did just add first responders, firefighters, police officers to our nonprofit, but we started it with all veterans in mind to kind of bridge the gap between some of the care they were receiving at the VA and then out in the civilian world. And so we just wanted to help stop the 22 from happening every day and do it in a way that was non-medicine. And so that's what we did. So we started it. We're just two moms, both from military families, and just wanted to try to make a difference.
Very cool. So I guess I'm going to run questions first. So then,
yeah.
No, we just like mess with Amy, making her do all the work. Yeah.
Yeah. How much do you want me to? I didn't want to just go on a rant. So I don't know if you want to ask questions or want me to tell you more about what we do.
I'd like to know more about what you do myself. How about you, Nate? What do you want?
Absolutely. I kind of want to figure out what you guys are doing.
Cool.
Yeah. So start, go through the process, how it started, what you're doing, how you're helping. And if we we might go, I have a question for what you're talking about. And then we'll go from there. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So
I'm sorry. We just took it from Amy. Sorry. She's all upset down the corner there.
Sorry, Amy. So we are the only nonprofit of its kind in the U.S. We are 501c3, 95% nonprofit, which means 95% of the funds go right back into the nonprofit to help our veterans. So we don't pocket any of the money. What it is, it's a therapy called Neurofeedback. It's a form of biofeedback therapy that's been around since the 60s. It was all created for seizure disorders to begin with. So it's found in the mental health world. What we do is they're called brain maps, but what it is, it's a recording of the brain activity. So it looks very similar to what someone would do during a sleep study, but we're not studying the sleep. We're actually studying how does the brain fire when the person's eyes are closed and eyes open. So on an everyday basis. Once we get that information, we then provide a feedback in the office. They come in 2 to 3 times a week. They sit in a chair, we put sensors on their head, and they receive a feedback to help retrain the actual brain activity. So we're working, you could think of it like this, we're working the hardware of the brain, where counseling and coaching and things like that are so important. That's really working the software. So if the hardware gets screwed up for whatever reason, whether it's from a TBI, a concussion, from trauma, from even childhood trauma, but with our veterans, we know a lot of them have traumatic brain injuries and concussions and obviously trauma from war and what they've seen. So it kind of rewires the hardware when those things happen, and we need to rewire it back to a healthy way of function. So we're working the hardware, we're getting the brain to rewire, to create new pathways. It doesn't make anyone forget about their traumas. What it does is it helps train the brain to regulate those traumas. And then when they do the counseling or other therapies, then the hardware is working, and the software that's being downloaded from the counseling and the new habits like meditation, things like that, will work better because now the hardware is working. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but Amy's not really a technical person when it comes to computers, so you kind of threw her for a loop there. She's trying to figure out which is hardware, which is software.
All right. So, like the actual physical.
We got it. She got it. I'm just playing with it.
So
but I remember biofeedback because I was in physical therapy, so I totally understand all that. So
nice. Yeah. So it is a form of biofeedback, but specifically for the brain waves. So we don't do like biofeedback. Sometimes during physical therapy, you might work on lowering your temperature or your heart rate. We don't necessarily work on that in our office. We work directly with the brain function. So yeah, so we decided we really, actually Camp Pendleton out in San Diego offers neurofeedback. The VA out there offers it, and there's a waiting list for 11 months. And so some of them are now starting to find out more about us because we're in downtown San Diego. So more are starting to find out about us down in San Diego. So my partner sees people in San Diego and I see people here in Atlanta.
We had a question come in from Brittany Hamilton, who's actually a girlfriend of mine. What type of scans?
Let me show it to you.
Okay.
What are the scan types? It's called a QEEG. So it's an electroencephalogram. We're not taking a visual. It's not an MRI or a CAT scan, or even there's ones called SPECT scans that are done. So you're not like going in a tube and being scanned for images. You're being, the actual electric patterns in your brain are being recorded. And then that data gets uploaded to a software that turns it into a picture for us to be able to, explain to people. Yeah.
So for you non-medical people out there that are listening to this, a sleep study, they basically put a cap, they put the knobs all over your head. When they do that, they watch your individual reaction to different things. So they're watching eyelid movements, they're watching different inputs in your brain. And that's what Melissa is talking about in this instance, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the nerves in your brain that are firing and communicating with each other that make the electric signals. So it looks similar to like a heart signal, but it's from your brain.
Because you're trying to find out where it's not firing properly, right? Where the damage is and that kind of stuff, basically what that is.
Yeah, we record 12 different, I guess you could say like hubs, major hubs in the brain. And then the way that they communicate and fire and speak to each other shows up on our report. Yeah.
And what do you do with that?
So then they come into the office and they do a visual and audio feedback to help retrain those pathways. So what happens, it's easier to understand when you see it. I'm trying to keep my cat out of the video. Okay.
That's okay.
It's easier when you see it, but they come in, they have a screen in front of them. Every time their brain goes into a pattern that we want more of, the screen in front of them goes nice and bright. So like they're watching their favorite movie, let's say. Every time their brain is calm and focused, the screen is going to be bright and the volume will be loud. But as soon as they go into that negative pattern that we don't want, the screen turns dark and the volume goes down. So what it's using, all of us learn this in psychology, it's called Operant Feedback, Pavlov's dogs. So it's giving a lifetime feedback directly back to the brain of how it's working. So it's like the screen in front of them is a mirror of how their brain's working. And when the brain receives feedback, it takes that feedback, recalibrates, and gets the screen to be bright again. It's pretty cool and fun.
All right. So
your green screen just went out. Yeah. It's back.
No, the light went out in the room. It's kind of interesting.
You got a wave in front of it.
You got a wave. Yeah, I'm trying not to.
We're okay. You're in the dark. It's okay. We can see you.
So obviously when you have trauma, your brain rewires itself and it reconditions itself to how it's going to react and that type of thing. So how, when you go into these scans, how do you then use that trauma and those trigger points to allow them to condition it? Is there part of that involved or what?
No. So we're not counselors. We're called neurofeedback therapists. We don't actually talk about the traumas or anything like that. And what it happens is we get a full medical history and everything. So we do know that there are traumas, but no matter who comes in, when we have that objective data, that scan of the brain, certain traumas show up in different ways. So a lot of times it'll show up like the brain in one specific area is super, what we call over aroused. It's in a really fast processing. And that means that it's in a trauma state, like a fight or flight state all the time. So we see that with our veterans, almost every single one is like that. So that's, and it doesn't matter which trauma they experienced or how different the traumas were, most of them are always in fight or flight state. And that's similar to someone in an anxiety state, fight or flight. I will say there are some differences like in men and women, and some of the women are more in the flight state. So it shows up the same, but how they interact daily is very different. They may show up much more depressed and withdrawn versus someone who's very anxious and on edge all the time. But it shows up very similar in the brain with the traumas. So, yeah. Yeah.
So do they take kind of what you're working with and they take it to their therapists as a way?
Yeah. We actually highly recommend it, and we usually try not. We don't turn someone away if they aren't with a counselor, but we highly recommend they do counseling at the same time, because when the brain does start processing better, some of those traumas can surface from the subconscious, because some of them push them down into the subconscious. And when the brain really starts processing, it comes up, and we are not equipped counselors to work with that. So that's where it's like, all right, brain's processing better, but what do we do with all this info now that it's come up? That's when the counseling is very important. And we refer all of our veterans to counselors if they don't have one.
So when you look at your scans and what you guys are doing versus say like EDMR or something like that, you're more supplemental to it than like competitive with it. Correct?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we actually work very closely with a lot of counselors that do EMDR. So EMDR also is the counselor kind of guiding them back into the traumas, right, with the eye movement.
Yep.
We do one similar to that, but it's the person themselves guiding themselves into it. It's an eyes closed part of the therapy. We don't do it until the brain is more stable to experience that type of therapy, because sometimes the EMDR could be too much for some of our veterans at first, and it could bubble up a lot of traumas that they weren't ready to deal with. So we stabilize the brain first and then allow the subconscious to bubble up like that. But yeah. How long does everything take and how many visits? That's a good question. So the QEG, the initial visit, takes about 25 minutes. And like you said, you put a cap on, it has sensors in it. You put some gel, it's like sonogram gel, into the sensors. We record, eyes closed, eyes open. Then on average, we give our veterans 25 free visits. If they need more, we're not going to turn away. And a lot of them do need more. But on average, because I have a for-profit side, we see clients most of the time between 30 and 50 visits. And it's done quickly over time, it's not spread out. It's usually done over 10 to 20 weeks. So that's how it works, yeah. Because we're retraining, it's like exercise. You're retraining, you're growing. So you don't want to do it just one time a week. They come in 2 to 3 times a week to really get the changes to happen quickly.
And they see changes from this?
They do. I mean, I have a lot of great testimonials. A few, they came back and their wives were ready to divorce them, and they had no idea what they were going to do next. And a couple out in San Diego, and one of them, his whole life changed. He ended up getting a new job, and him and his wife became happy again. I mean, it's life-changing, not just for the veterans. That's the thing. A lot of people forget how much the families are affected by it. And so we're seeing everyone be changed, and the kids, I mean, my partner and I experienced it. And that's why we started it real quick. The reason we started it is because my dad was a veteran. He got addicted to heroin and became a not great person. And then my stepdad was a Vietnam vet, became an alcoholic. He died when I was in high school, when I was 15. So I experienced trauma from very young from the effects of being a veteran. And then my business partner, who runs a San Diego office, her dad's a retired Navy officer. He still works, he's doing great. But her husband, who is a Marine, now a firefighter, 5 years ago, they actually came out here to Georgia for my wedding, and her husband got super drunk and started attacking everyone in the bar. We got him out of the bar, and he started pulling off the windshield wipers of cars and thought that he was back in war. He was checking the perimeter. And so he got arrested the night before my wedding. So my morning of my wedding, we were bailing him out of jail. And my partner looked at me and was like, if something doesn't change, I'm divorcing him. They now have 4 little girls, but they had 3 little girls at the time. She's like, I'm leaving him. Like, we've been together almost 10 years. I'm leaving him. This is ridiculous. He's had DUIs before all this. So I was like, well, I started this neurofeedback business. Why don't we just start one in San Diego and start it off as a nonprofit? And she's like, let's do it. The month after my wedding, we started it. And since then, it's been 5 years, excuse me, and he hasn't drinking a sip of alcohol. He's become a much better dad. They have a 4th baby just born about 2 months ago, and he is now a firefighter. And he's actually up in the North California fires right now, fighting the fires. So that right there, like, if that's the only person's life we changed, I'd be happy, but we've changed many more just like that. So it's very rewarding for us to give back.
Well, any more questions there, Nate? You're so quiet.
So,
Amy?
Oh, my
where are you?
No, I mean, I was amazing the question you asked earlier. That was very insightful. So, Amy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Where are you located? Like, where can people find you?
So we have an office in downtown San Diego. There's 3 offices that I own here in Atlanta. So we're north of Atlanta. We're up in Cobb County. So maybe some of your listeners know where that is, but it's about 25, 30 minutes north. Kennesaw, Marietta, and then like the east side of Marietta and the west side of Marietta. So we have multiple offices. I own all of those. And then we do have an office in Las Vegas. That is a different business partner, but okay.
You can let the cat in. It's okay.
Now it's my 3-year-old.
That's okay. Same.
That one's too.
Cat, kid, they're all the same these days.
We actually, okay, thank you. Take this. We have an office in Las Vegas, and my sister-in-law runs that, who's married to my brother, who is also a Navy veteran. And so I'm sure we haven't talked about adding Healing Our Heroes. We just opened that office this year, but I'm sure she would obviously see our veterans because she's married to one. So yeah, we have quite a few. My goal is to open one. There are neurofeedback offices across the nation. It's just they're not necessarily part of Healing Our Heroes yet.
Yet.
So
right, I just want to open more offices, to start.
So what is your plan to network with some of these guys where, obviously it's not going to make sense for you to be in every area that we as the veteran community need you. So do you have a plan to go in and kind of network or no?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always doing that. This is the thing too. We have units that people can rent, and we have done this for a couple of our veterans. So there was a veteran that came from Northern California down to San Diego to get a brain assessment, a QEEG, and then we sent him home with an actual neurofeedback unit that he used at home daily. So we have the opportunity to help veterans across the nation. That's a little bigger cost for us. So this is the problem. I don't know if you guys know this, but not a lot of people donate to veteran nonprofits. It's hard to get donations for our veterans. And it surprised me and my partner how much people will donate to the dumbest nonprofits, like grow an apple tree. Like, you could just go grow an apple tree. What about our veterans? And so we get pissed. We're like, why aren't people helping our veterans? And so, a lot of it comes out of me and my partner's pocket. Like, we just do it for free because we care that much. I think over the 5 years, our biggest donation was $1,000, and that doesn't even cover half of what it costs to run someone through the program. Because there's a lot of software fees, all that. All of the money is just going to pay to be able to run the system. So the home units, definitely, if it's someone absolutely in need, we're not going to turn it away. And if we have a unit available, we have one home unit specifically for Healing Our Heroes that we don't rent out to people to make money from it. We just keep it for our veterans. So it's out right now with a veteran, and if someone needs it when it's back, then we're going to give it to the next one. And it doesn't matter where they live. If they don't have an initial assessment, we can still do neurofeedback for them. It's just best to get that initial assessment so we can always call up one of our neurofeedback colleagues across the nation and ask them to do the initial assessment, and then we'll give them the unit to use. So we have the company we use has about 350 providers across the nation. So we could just call one of them up in the area and ask them to either donate, the initial scan or give a huge discount. Yeah.
So this is used normally for, besides veterans, right? So the ones that normally pay the bills, please don't take that wrong, but what are those situations?
Those are as young as 5-year-olds with ADHD. A lot of them don't have it, but they think they do. It's usually like learning disabilities and things like that for the kids, all the way up to the elderly who can't sleep with insomnia or pre-dementia. Mainly in my offices here in Atlanta, I see a lot of like college students with anxiety or post-concussion. I work with a lot. A lot of people get concussions and don't even realize that they've had one in their history, and it's now affecting like their cognitive processing, which means like their memory and attention and things like that. So we get a lot of that in where they're like, I can't pay attention, and then I do a scan on them and it's showing a possible concussion from many years ago. So we work with that a lot.
Can you tell like how long ago something happened?
No, not based on a QEEG. We would need like an MRI with a CAT scan and a QEEG. The best scans out there are called SPECT scans, SPECT. It's by a guy named Dr. Amen. He's with the Amen clinics. He's like a well-known psychiatrist that does SPECT scans, which is like an MRI and a QEEG put together. And he started his whole career with the Army doing neurofeedback, biofeedback in the Army. So he started with what we do, and then just since he's a psychiatrist, he expanded. He has clinics across the nation. Very expensive. I know he doesn't have any nonprofits for veterans, but what we see is just a little less than what he sees. We just can't say how long ago something happened.
Right. And I was just curious. It would be interesting.
Yeah. Usually I'll bring it up, like if someone's like, no, I've never got a concussion. And then I'll be like, well, it kind of looks like you did. And they're like, well, when I was 16. And then I'm like, okay, that's a concussion. Just because you're not diagnosed or just because you don't get your lights knocked out with stars doesn't mean you haven't had a concussion. It's really important to know how your brain's functioning and see that kind of stuff, because that's going to project throughout the years as we age. So it's very important to know that kind of stuff. So I always push, even if it's just to get an initial assessment to see how your brain operates, that's important. That's very important information. We check everything else. We check our blood pressure, we check our heart, we check all the stuff, but we never check our brains, which runs everything.
So how does someone get started? Is it like just a doctor? Are they just like, I have a problem, I need to be checked? Or
see, most medical doctors, they're not going to refer out to a neurofeedback. Sometimes you'll get a really good neurologist to refer to us. Like recently I had a neurologist from Emory refer a 10-year-old with migraines to me. And that's very uncommon because neurofeedback, it's an alternative therapy. So they might mention it to the doctor. The doctor's most likely going to try to prescribe a medication. So unless they hear about me or neurofeedback through like someone who's been to our office or through the marketing that we do on social media, then that's how most people start with us. They just contact us directly. I do run some ads on Facebook and stuff like that. And I partner with local providers. So I do get some referrals from like chiropractors and counselors and those type of providers.
All right, so let's talk brass tacks. What would it, to sponsor a veteran through something like this, what would the cost be for in office, and then what would be the cost if we had to do like an at-home kind of situation?
Yeah, it's just in office $2,500, and then at home is $3,500. It's really not as like with what we're doing. We're working on retraining the brains. Like that's not a very big cost for therapy. Thinking about like how long people have dealt with this, and this is how I talk to my clients. Like they've been dealing with this symptom, whatever it is, anxiety, insomnia, for over 20 years. And we're talking about being able to retrain the brain in like 3 to 6 months. For that cost, it's really, when you look at it, it's like, wow, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And I assume this is not covered by VA.
Not that I know of, but I am starting to hear some of the VA, like up in Virginia, get a little more interested in it because I have some colleagues up there that do this. So I think they are at least referring a little bit more. But as of now, I haven't heard the VA covering it, except the Camp Pendleton. And I'm not sure if that's more research type stuff or if it's actually a service that they're offering through VA. Yeah. But it would be great if they would.
How about normal insurance? Do they cover you guys or no?
Not with my company, but with other providers that are counselors. Like if they're offering counseling at the same time, every once in a while, an insurance will cover it with the specific codes. It's really the insurance that's not covering it more than the providers. But you do have to be a specific type of provider to be able to bill the insurance. And I'm not a licensed counselor because I don't offer counseling, so I can't bill insurance. I can accept, like if someone has a job and they have the like health savings or flex spending, I can accept that. I just can't bill insurance for them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good questions.
Yeah. Any other questions?
How do we get more centers? How do you get more places here in California? Besides
Right?
going down to San Diego. Even though I love San Diego and I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, I just,
Yeah, I like Northern California too, but I'm born and raised San Diego, so I'll always represent. I do have a couple colleagues in which part of California?
No, we're Central Modesto, California.
Modesto. Okay, I don't know if I have one in Modesto. I have someone in Oakland. She's a chiropractor friend of mine that has an office. If anyone is interested, you guys or anyone watching, if they contact me and tell me their zip code, I could help look up providers near them. I can't promise that they're gonna give free like we do, because not everyone's part, it's just me and my partner that are part of Healing Our Heroes, but a lot of them do care about our veterans and will give a good discount. So a lot of especially if I call up one of my colleagues and say, hey, can you take care of them? Then we could try to get a good discount for them. Or if someone wanted to sponsor a veteran that's in another area and we could get that center paid through a sponsor through Healing Our Heroes, we could do that too.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Friend me here on Facebook. Also, you can do Melissa at Healing Our Heroes. And the Heroes is HEROES. We put an E in it. So Melissa at healingourheroes.net. There's a few Healing Our Heroes nonprofits out there. We are the .net website. And our website's being combined with like the business and all that. So it's kind of choppy right now, but it'll look good in a few weeks.
We'll put that in the notes for people to contact. Yeah, how to contact you.
Yeah.
Are you on Instagram?
Yes, we are. Healing Our Heroes is on Instagram. Brain Train Centers is our main company, and that's on Instagram and Facebook. So they could contact us there as well. And you could contact me, or my business partner's name is Tana. And both of us are listed on the website for the emails and phone numbers and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got one last question because it's personal to me. Do you notice any differences between, say, veterans and first responders' brains? I'm just curious to see how they process trauma and if it's the same and if it's different.
So I don't have enough first responders because I've only seen a few. I will say one paramedic that was a paramedic for, I think it was like 16 or 18 years. I can't remember the exact. His brain looked exactly like our veterans.
Got it.
Yeah. Fight or flight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even after all these years, he hasn't been a paramedic for years, but he saw a lot. So, yeah. And sleep is an issue. That's one of the biggest issues for a lot of our veterans and heroes is sleep. And sleep is what heals your brain. So if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. You're not losing weight. You're not being healthy. And it's because your brain is just in that over-aroused state all the time. and that's not good. So that's our biggest thing that we work on, is getting our veterans to be able to sleep.
Do you sleep, Ed?
Yes, I do. I sleep.
It's important.
Do you sleep, Amy?
Nate doesn't sleep. Yeah,
No.
I sleep.
No, that's why he was asking about the sleep test.
Yeah.
That's how he knew all about that sleep stuff.
Yeah.
And
that was his life.
You gotta a lot of people are into like epigenetics now and like biohacking your body, which means like using, like right now, this ring I have on, it's called the Aura Ring, and it's specifically made to help monitor your sleep better. And it's not a big watch you have to wear. I wear this all the time, day and night. And the next day it'll tell you like, are you in a spot that you could be like super focused or super active? And it's based off the sleep from the night before. And it tracks like your deep sleep and your light sleep and your REM sleep. And you have to have all of those happening for you to have good sleep.
Yeah.
So
I have the same thing, but I have it on our dog. So it looks like I can't really work the next day.
oh, Lordy.
I actually had that one. I had it for a while.
Yeah.
I can't go in today. I'm sorry, boss. Sorry.
Right. I'm not alert enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was up all the night barking.
Yeah.
Melissa, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story about what you do for our vets. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for your service and allowing me to come on as not being a veteran. Thank you very much.
Well, it's all about, veterans, but it's about how people are helping our vets. And those are the people we want on to figure out, what more we can do for our vets. So I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Amy.
Yes. Thank you, Amy, for bringing her in. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks, Melissa. It was great.
Thank you. Just go ahead and friend me. I'd love to stay in contact with all of you. And if you have anyone that you need me to send to a different provider, get help for, I'd be more than happy.
I just think we need more help up in Northern California.
All right. It'll be one of my next spots. I was just thinking about Hawaii, though, because I was just there last week. And one of our other best friends lives there, and she definitely needs brain training herself. I'm like, maybe we should open for you first.
Mexico's always good.
It is.
Puerto Vallarta, that'd be a good place for one too.
It's true. There's some good.
You could have like a whole getaway for people to.
No, great idea. All right, we're gonna have
Not
to.
a bad way to think about it.
About that. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Anything else, you guys?
No.
All right, take us out, Amy. Do you mind?
I don't. So I will say, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and hit subscribe. Thank you, everybody in, YouTube land and Facebook and LinkedIn for watching us. Thank you, Melissa, for your time. And I guess that is a wrap.
All right.